Because your theology growing up was exactly what your pastor said, what your parents said, what your Sunday school teacher taught you, what your little books taught you when you were reading them growing up. And so Mark and I often talk about this, the Jesus Storybook Bible, which I know Mark reads to his kids, which I'm going through with Library Scout the entire year. This is the Bible that shows Jesus at the center of every single, the gospel at the center of every single story. If you were brought up in a church, as I was brought up, and I would think you were brought up, we would think that there's other heroes in the story. As we open up the Bible, there's other heroes in here. But the reality is, that's wrong theology. Because the Bible's only about one hero, and his name's Jesus. Do you see this? So as we're growing up, you are handed down your theology. As you grow up, very subtly, if you will, a lens is slipped over your eye, and frames are slipped over your ears, and that is the view through which you will see the Bible, that you will see God ultimately shaping your theology. And it was just given to you. And so as you grow and as you mature and as you get closer to Christ, we need to, for ourselves, as mature followers of Christ, pursuing proximity with Christ, we need to unearth the truth in the Scriptures. Let's skip ahead now to the Scriptures. Yeah, please.
The thing that comes out of that is, many of you are going to go to college, and obviously you're here tonight. The choosing of whose teaching you're sitting under and what church you're participating in is so absolutely critical. You understand this? It's like the fact that all of you are here is a great step, because you're not playing games. You're the church. You're learning the gospel. You're digging into hard texts. But when you go to school, whatever it is that you do after this, the choosing of where it is that you're, as a missionary, as a believer, going to be equipped to leave with the gospel, to proclaim it, is so critical. Because that teaching that's coming from the pulpit and through worship and everything that the church does is so essential. That's why most college kids go and they start dabbling in the world, because they haven't had this strong picture of God. They don't connect themselves with the true community because they haven't been challenged. And so after school, after spending 4 years of drinking and having, rumpus sex, not sure if that's even a word, they just, after 4 years, they think that then, okay, well, God will just forgive me and I want to start a family and get serious again. There is forgiveness. I don't want to negate that. But why waste 4 years of potential missionality, right? And so all of this is so key for you right now. You're here for a reason. You're here because you're tired of playing games and because you enjoy the fact that in this particular context and community, Freddie teaches the Scriptures and there's authentic worship of the true God. But there's other places in this radius that aren't doing this and teaching this. It doesn't mean that we go out and start condemning other communities, but we start calling an apple an apple. You see what I'm saying? That's what Adam and Eve didn't do, okay? Right? But what we're challenged to do, you need to discern as a 16, 17, 18-year-old who you're going to sit underneath. How do they portray God, and how am I going to be infiltrated? It's key. And most college students I talk to just aren't concerned. They just want to go with the biggest and best instead of the most missional, the most challenging, the most engaging. You see what I'm saying? So as you sit in your chair, I praise God because you're here tonight. Your attendance here says something about you, right? So just want to share that.
That's good. That's good encouragement for us. So let me ask this, based on that, is if how many were raised in the church? How many raised in the church or from the church time? And so this is important let me ask you this more, because if I can be raised in the church and I can know all the right things, so I can even be raised in a place and I know all the right answers. Does theology bridge the gap between knowing all the right answers and truly allowing me to know the gospel? How would you answer, what would you say to a context of students who've been brought up in church and know all the right things? And the reason I bring this up is because I just read earlier this week of a guy who knew all the right answers. So he's in this conversation with his friend, and his friend was an agnostic. So he believed that God had nothing to do with him, or nothing to do with him, and vice versa. And he lived his life that way. So his friend, who knew all the right answers, who was brought up in church his entire life, went out and told him all the right answers. But what he found out was that he had all the right answers to the questions that his friend wasn't asking. So we can have all the right answers, but if our culture, if your friends, if your family, because I know there's some people here who you're the only church person, you're the only person in your family who knows Christ. And so when you go home, we want to shove the right answers. We want to give the right theology, if you will. How do we bridge this gap between the right answers and yet they're maybe not asking those questions?
So I talked about my kids a little bit. I have an almost 4-year-old girl named Avery. She's cute as a button, love her. She's my little princess. And as Freddie alluded to, every night we do family worship. And one of the things that I'm beginning now with Avery, this may seem hardcore to you, is I'm teaching her the shorter catechism. Okay? Now, a catechism is basically a doctrine statement. It's 167 questions long. And the first question is, who is God? Okay? And so right now, Avery's through 10 questions. But for Avery right now, it's just regurgitation. You see what I'm saying? Who made you? God. Why did he make you? And the way she says it, because of his glory, right? And then, and what else did God make? Well, God made all things, you know? And how can you give God glory? This is the way she says it. By loving him and because of his commandments. You know, she doesn't quite get it all right yet. But there's no heart connection for her yet. See what I'm saying? It's regurgitation. And I'm trying to walk this line with her because I don't just want to teach her a bunch of things. And so what we do is a couple nights ago, I was out with my neighbors and we had a whole stack of water balloons. And I noticed that the neighbor over here that she had her granddaughter out. So I went and got Avery and I said, Avery, look, listen, here's what we're going to do. Daddy has bought a bunch of water balloons. We're going to invite the neighborhood girls over. And I said, we're going to do it because we want to show our neighbors love. And I said, Avery, you know how I tell you that God is love? Yeah, Daddy. We're going to do this right now because we want to show our neighbors that we care about them. And so for my little girl, she's almost 4, we go out and we're throwing water balloons. It's amazing, you know, and she's like a princess water balloon thrower. You know what I mean? She's like, ooh. You know what I mean? There's no she doesn't want to throw them at anyone. It's just like at the grass. You know, I don't want to hurt anybody, right? And, but what's that? No, you know, but I'm trying and hoping and praying that God will save her. But in the meantime, I'm trying to connect knowledge with life experience and missionality. And I think, let me say this. The folks that have the answers are the same folks that you don't see loving their neighbors, that you don't see on their face, that you don't see completely humbly and so. I will not follow a leader. I will not adhere to the teachings of a leader that is a good orator, but that I do not see help picking up afterwards. I will not listen to the teachings of any pastor or leader in the whatever business, whatever you want to call it, if I do not see the humility of the leader hanging with his flock. One of the things that I've shared here before is I've had the privilege of having conversations with Hal Moore, who is the guy who's featured in We Were Soldiers. Have talked with him several times on the phone, Mel Gibson place. And he lost 77 men in the battle that the movie portrays. When he came back here to the United States, him and his wife visited all 77 of those families one by one, traveled all across the U.S., sat in the living rooms of these soldiers that they had lost. And if you talk to any one of his men, and there's many YouTube videos you can watch, every single one of those say, you know what, the reason why I follow Hal Moore is because he led passionately with a sense of humility. You can tell when the answers have gripped the heart, when what they're preaching is being practiced. I know, and I'm really challenging my community right now on missionality and just missional living. Obviously, if I'm not living it, then I'm just an orator of answers, but I haven't truly been wrecked by the gospel. There's no power in it. I'm just a teacher, a communicator. You see what I'm saying? That if we really believe who Jesus is, then the whole framework of it is it holistically changes us all the time. You see what I'm saying? So where this disconnect happens and where you can point it out the same people that are talking about things of God, but not living like things of God, they're just orators, they're teachers, they're social study communicators, they're not true believers, you see? And so when you sit underneath that, and when you experience that for yourself, what we're doing here in understanding theology is we're not trying to better articulate answers. We're trying to better understand the character of God that we might fall more in love with Him. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's the power of the love of God, man. You know, and so many theologians that I talk to, and there's a lot out there. When you get to college, the crazy theologians will come out. Hey, let's argue this, let's argue. And all they want to do is stick and argue. They never want to be on mission. That's why I got so chapped in college. I had a dude come in and say, Mark, what's your theological belief on this? And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? And we sat and we had this conversation. I had never ever seen this guy love one dude.